Have you ever seen those grainy old videos of random people in the street being filmed? Where they'll look with a mixture of curiosity and excitement at the camera. It's strange knowing that the people shown are probably all dead now. The same kind of curiosity and excitement about being filmed is largely dead too. Of course, there's some people who'll crash a recording wherever possible, like those in the background of news segments filmed in the street. But being in a stranger's photo or video has now become a common part of existing in public, whether wanted or not. Sometimes it's much more direct, such as in this clip where a random man in the street is sat upon by a street interviewer, and sometimes we're not even aware of it, such as when we're in the background of a tourist's holiday snaps. Thanks to their inclusion in the vast majority of phones that are bought now, cameras are extremely pervasive. There's no better illustration of this than the complete collapse in camera sales since the advent of the smartphone. But if you're so inclined, you can buy tiny cameras about the size of your thumb off Temu for less than $10 and film even more discreetly. The ability to create footage of other humans is easier than it's ever been. And, for the most part, once someone has footage of you, they can do whatever they please with it. To be in public is no longer just to be perceived. It is to potentially be perceived by millions of people who you will never perceive yourself. And this is, more often than not, without your consent, because in many countries it's not required. Strangers can just shove a camera in your face and dump the resulting footage online, where it becomes content. In fact, a sizable chunk of content online now involves strangers in public, normally trying to mind their own business and often visibly uncomfortable being filmed. To content creators, strangers are now simply props in their next video, and if they poke and prod them in the right way, they'll generate an entertaining reaction. Many creators seem to lack the empathy to think of strangers as humans, blinded by the pursuit of minor online fame and money. But how did we get here, and what kind of dark path is it taking us down? This is The Internet's Eating Itself, and let's get into it. If we're ranking content in terms of its involvement with random members of the public, we might start with videos where they happen to be in the background. While there aren't concrete figures on people filming themselves in public, it does seem that, on average, people are more comfortable doing it than they used to be. This is obviously in part due to the accessibility of cameras and having somewhere to post these photos and videos, namely social media. Pre-social media, most people's most common interactions with cameras would have been for taking photos on holiday and other special occasions. Well, other than CCTV maybe. To state the obvious, this was partly because cameras and camcorders' bulkiness meant they were impractical to carry at all times. Also, prior to digital cameras, it was necessary to get film developed to see the photos you'd taken. For this reason, the audience of these photos and videos would be whichever friends and family you could hold hostage while you take them through a slideshow of your trip to Disneyland. Smartphones and social media changed this, of course. While camera phones existed prior to smartphones, smartphones are characterized by their functionality and meaningful internet access. That's to say, there was internet access on phones prior to smartphones, but it was damn near useless and very expensive. Photos taken on phones also went from a grainy mess to somewhat distinguishable. These early smartphone cameras looked terrible by today's standards, but their output was good enough to want to share with friends. At the time, social media like Facebook and Instagram really was about friends, and the emphasis had yet to shift to brands, influencers, shopping, entertainment, and generally gluing you to it 24/7. The image quality didn't matter too much because, in the early 2010s, you would probably slap a horrendous filter on it anyway. Camera quality increased as social media reach did, and if your account wasn't private, you soon had a potential reach in the billions. Being a creator became a more popular pursuit, with the accessibility of short-form video facilitating this. The barrier to entry was lower, as all you needed was the phone in your pocket and a free app with editing functionality, such as TikTok or CapCut. This presented new opportunities for fame, attention, and notoriety, with an estimated 30% of 12 to 15-year-olds now wanting to become full-time YouTubers and 21% wanting to become TikTok creators. Often this involves filming in public, doing things like TikTok dances, much to the mockery of many online. Many of us would find it embarrassing to dance in public or even just film ourselves doing things like going shopping, eating in restaurants, etc., which is why I can't help but admire their self-confidence. Inevitably though, that means others appear in the background of their videos. Most of the time, people don't mind, maybe looking away from the camera or moving to avoid being in the shot. But I think many of us can sympathize with those who are annoyed by this kind of public filming, especially if the creator in question is being obnoxious. In the context of public transport, this can be especially annoying, as there's nowhere to escape to, such as on the tube, where many lines have small carriages. Most of those around them are just minding their own business and trying to get to work. But filming in public doesn't just catch random members of the public in the crossfire. Often it's public-facing employees being deliberately filmed, and it simply comes with the territory at this point. Often that's by vloggers who review businesses and services, a niche that I'm personally interested in and touched on in my video about consumerism content. Take cruise ships, for example. Reviewing cruise ships involves taking extensive footage throughout these gigantic structures, visiting the numerous restaurants, cafes, pools, theatres, bars, gyms, etc. They provide viewers with the full experience, thoroughly reviewing the amenities, cabins, and excursions, so they can make informed decisions themselves. Deliberately or not, they film staff in the process, and cruising is an industry where staff are pretty universally taught to embrace this. That's why it was something of a surprise when Cruise with Ben and David, one of the biggest YouTube cruise reviewers, were demanded to stop filming by staff during an MSC cruise on the World Europa, in a way that was blunt and unprofessional, despite them not breaking any policies and avoiding including members of the public in their video. The video where they talk about this incident seems to have been taken down, but I was able to find some clips from it in other videos reacting to it. The incident drew a strong negative reaction from their audience, with many of them saying they would never take an MSC cruise again until the issue was resolved. Ultimately, MSC apologised for the incident and even reached out to them, requesting that they help inform future policies around filming on board. It was surprising that the incident happened in the first place, as they've always been quite discreet when filming, making an effort to keep members of the public largely out of shot and avoid being disruptive, such as avoiding vlogging their meals when close to another table in a restaurant, and generally being more discreet than many other cruising YouTubers. The staff who asked Ben and David to stop filming weren't following any MSC policy, but were exercising their own judgment around making staff and other passengers uncomfortable. In a similar vein, several flight reviewers on YouTube have run into issues with filming on airlines. Similar to filming on public transport or a cruise, it's hard to avoid incidentally capturing other passengers in the process. Airlines generally seem fine with this too, as long as other passengers aren't being deliberately filmed or bothered by the creator. However, you get the sense that airlines are a bit more tetchy when it comes to criticism of their service, even unafraid to ban reviewers. In late 2023, Josh Cahill was banned from Qatar Airways for an unfavourable review, after having tried to effectively bribe him to take the video down. And this year, another flight reviewer, Nonstop Dan, was harassed and threatened by staff on a Kuwait Airways flight, despite filming no other passengers, and even having a largely positive experience beyond the staff. In a follow-up video, he shared that he'd received a personal apology from Kuwait Airways president, and, insanely, even a member of the Kuwaiti royal family. Dan seemed keen to prevent the staff member receiving any severe repercussions for their treatment of him, as it really just hammered home the importance of having a clear policy around filming. But the examples I've talked about so far generally have other members of the public in the background of their videos. It becomes something of a different issue when creators are deliberately filming strangers, even if they're not aware they're being filmed, or especially if they're not aware they're being filmed. People seem to love doing this, even those who aren't content creators in the conventional sense, especially if what the stranger is doing is strange. Of course, we have no idea what the stranger is going through, and really it's none of our business anyway. Gyms have been ground zero for this, and it's been a problem for some time now, whether that be people using machines or equipment improperly, or overexerting themselves, or simply bad form. There's no shortage of these clips online. They often end up continually recycled in gym fail compilations for millions of strangers to mock online. The gym is already a self-conscious experience for many. I've been going to the gym consistently for over 10 years and am still a bit self-conscious, even with a body that's unlikely to draw the ire of strangers online. Now, I've seen firsthand that some men do stare at women in the gym, and there's videos online that highlight this as a lived reality for many women. But there's a growing resentment among men towards accusations of staring, or just a sincere belief that staring is justified because of what women wear. And creators have been incredibly creative at leveraging this resentment through rage bait. This will often take the form of women wearing revealing clothing and filming workouts that are likely to attract male users for, reasons. They'll then post videos online with men in the background, often doing little more than glancing or even just looking in their general direction, not necessarily at them. The caption will complain of men staring at them, but this isn't a genuine complaint designed to attract sympathy. Instead, it's designed to generate angry engagement, blaming the creator for the look she's getting, often due to the outfit she's wearing, or angrily pointing out that the men aren't staring and that the creator is simply self-obsessed. This format of content just feeds into a wider resentment towards women for easy views and engagement. This fuckery is why many gyms have adopted policies against filming or specific areas for filming. Honestly, running a gym must be exhausting. But while the subject of unwanted filming in a gym may go to the manager, this isn't possible for those outside private businesses, especially if they're in a vulnerable position. Content creators have made a habit of exploiting these vulnerable people, as they feel unable to challenge the person filming. Charitable acts towards homeless people have been a popular genre of content for some time now. The creator will show themselves giving money, food, etc. to homeless people, but it's not clear if the subject has given their consent to have a camera shoved in their face. In situations like these though, homeless people are likely to feel forced or pressured to show gratitude, as the giver's good deed is broadcast to the world. An obvious criticism of this style of content is that they're doing it just for clout, and that, if they were sincere, they would do it off camera. The natural response to this is that the act is intended to inspire. If a good deed encourages others to do the same, why not? This seems like a reasonable rationale after all. But is the subject really consenting if they feel pressured to do so? Would they prefer not to be filmed if the option was given? This is at the heart of why these videos can be so uncomfortable to watch. The imbalance of power and status in the situation. We know the homeless person is likely at a low point in their life, when dignity can be challenging to preserve. And sometimes filming homeless people isn't even done under the guise of doing good. Sometimes they're just gawked at like zoo animals, such as when TikTokers traveled to Philadelphia to film users of the devastating drug, Trank. In a similar vein, elderly people are also a common, vulnerable subject. It's not uncommon to see videos of elderly people by themselves in a restaurant or maybe on a park bench, with a sympathetic caption about how sad and lonely they must be on their own. You know, because nobody loves them and they're just a sad, lonely old person. Of course, lots of old people are lonely, even if the data suggests that they might actually be less lonely than younger age groups. But we don't know if any given old person actually is lonely. They might just want to be by themselves. And some people just have kind of a resting sad face, the same way many of us have resting bitch faces, myself included. But the person filming has already drawn their own conclusions and attracted lots of sympathetic comments from those agreeing. Some creators might engage in performative conversation with the subject, while their friend films them being such a good person, you know, purely out of the goodness of their heart. Much of the time this isn't even done with their consent. Most of us don't want pity from strangers on the internet after all. If we put ourselves in their shoes, we wouldn't want to be filmed. If you see a lonely looking old person in public, they might be up for a conversation. There's even charities for talking to lonely elderly people. But a lot of us don't want to be talked to by random people, regardless of age. There's maybe a lack of self-honesty about why we watch videos like that. Maybe it's really just to make ourselves feel better. Most of the examples given so far have the illusion of good, or at least neutral, intentions. But there are creators who just want to make life hell for those who dare to exist in public. They might even make their living from it, with viewers funding the chaos. Enter IRL streamers. IRL streamers are probably the worst when it comes to this type of behavior, and are pretty notorious at this point, having been around for some time now. If you watch the same type of content I do, you might have already seen videos from streamers who profit from being menaces, such as Ice Poseidon, Jack Doherty, and Sneeko. After all, these people are deeply unpleasant. Put simply, they're trolls who make entertainment from bothering people and making them uncomfortable, especially when they can't fight back. Public employees are an obvious example of this. Most have to be polite to the general public, even when they're rude or antagonizing. Cowardly IRL streamers exploit this, knowing that workers can't react how they want to or else risk their job. In recent years, they've taken their chaos overseas, flouting cultural norms in countries such as Japan and South Korea, deliberately being disruptive because they feel they're less likely to fight back or be armed. Johnny Somali is a notorious example, with numerous videos already made about him being disruptive on public transport, getting into fights, and generally being unpleasant and insufferable. His actions seem to have finally caught up with him though, as he's currently awaiting trial in South Korea for sexual violence charges. Vitally is another IRL streamer that's found himself locked up overseas, currently residing in a Philippines prison while he awaits trial. Like Johnny Somali, his imprisonment is directly related to his behavior harassing members of the public, having stolen a motorcycle from a security guard, stolen an electric fan, threatened to rob a woman, and trespassed in a McDonald's kitchen. These acts might not be punished too severely in some countries, maybe involving a fine or community service, but Vitali clearly chose the wrong country, as he's now looking at up to 18 months in prison. He can't even be deported to his homeland of Russia because they don't want him either. His situation isn't looking great. As you can imagine, many have relished in Vitali and Johnny Somali's downfall, making for great thumbnails when they get a taste of justice, even if it's not nearly enough for most liking. In all these examples, the creators take advantage of the fact that it's legal to film strangers in public in the countries or areas in which they're creating content, with varying degrees of leniency and exceptions. Auditors embody this principle in its purest form, filming anything and everyone, but the focus is often on government-owned buildings and government employees, such as the police. They might not even say anything unless challenged by the person they're filming, which unsurprisingly happens fairly often. People, even government employees, often aren't aware of laws around filming in public and may even mistakenly think that what the auditor is doing is illegal. When anyone challenges the filming, this is considered a fail of the audit. The premise of this activity is that it's with the intent of upholding the First Amendment and similar free speech laws in other countries, a noble endeavour, of course. But filming people does tend to draw a reaction. Most don't like being filmed without their consent, after all, especially when it's unknown what the footage will be used for, only given a vague answer of personal use. Auditing videos on YouTube tend to feature angry or annoyed reactions from those being filmed and accusations of violations of rights. In some instances, creators do actually make legal claims when attempts are made to stop them filming, with mixed results. This all makes for enticing thumbnails and enthusiastic engagement from those skeptical of authority. This whole niche could honestly be a video in itself, so let me know if you'd be interested in that. So what does this all mean? In the relatively short amount of time that cameras have been so accessible, people have become incredibly comfortable using those cameras to film strangers and share the footage with potentially billions of people online, often without considering how the subject might feel, only what is our own legal right and what might get us internet points. But this is only possible because of a loss of empathy. If we did empathize with others as much as we should, those internet points simply wouldn't be worth it. We've become disconnected from other humans, isolated from each other. We don't care about their problems or see their problems as real, the result of a fundamental alienation from those around us. You might even go as far as dehumanization, typified by the use of the acronym NPC, non-player character, a video game reference to characters not controlled by a human performing automated actions like repeating stock phrases. Now popularized as an insult, the term is used to describe people that seemingly lack independent thought, maybe people that have a very generic taste in music or lead lives not considered interesting. Interest in the term peaked in early 2022, but a raised level of interest has been sustained since then, suggesting more commonplace usage. While seemingly harmless slang hasn't necessarily caused this treatment of strangers, it's certainly symptomatic of it. It drives home the idea that others around us don't have the same capacity for emotion as we do, that they can't feel emotions like embarrassment, pain, shame, or discomfort, that they don't have their own unique experiences that have shaped who they are, or reasons for enjoying what they enjoy, or maybe why they might not want a camera shoved in their face while they're just trying to go about their day. And the worst thing is, it's a self-perpetuating phenomenon. People see others doing it online and feel like they can do it too. It emboldens them to whip their camera out and turn others into content, even when they're clearly in their lowest moments. Their personal crisis forever immortalized online. But what do you think? Have you seen videos online featuring strangers that made you uneasy? Have you been filmed by people against your wishes and maybe had the footage shared online? Let me know in the comments and hit those like and subscribe buttons while you're down there. I release a new video every couple of weeks. Until next time, see ya.